Hello, Dr. Lonzerich here. I have video on animal diversity. This is my outline right here, and my question is, um, vertebrates are one group of animals that have backbones, and then another one, invertebrates, don't have backbones. So the question is, um, are invertebrates a good group? That is to say, is there a unique trait to them? And the answer is no. There is a good trait for vertebrates, and that is that they have vertebrae. But the lack of vertebrae is not a good trait. Think about that for the test. All right, so here's the outline. Moving on. So first question is, what is an animal? And these are things that you should know about them. No cell walls, useful. Fungi have cell walls, which we really didn't talk about too much. I apologize for that. Plants have cell walls, bacteria have cell walls, but animals do not. And then they have muscles and nerves, at least most of them do, and they eat food, so they're called heterotrophs. So there are around 35 animal phyla. Phyla is a R, phylum is the singular, a level in the classification of life. There are 9 phyla that make up most animals, and you need to be familiar with them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sponges, the most primitive of all animals. Jellyfish, which include, are members of this group, Cnidaria, are the next most primitive. And then there are a cluster of animals that are together here called mollusks, which include clams and snails and squid. And then flatworms, which include tapeworms, and flukes, which are parasites. And then annelids, which include earthworms. And then roundworms, which are parasites, many of them. And then arthropods, which include insects and crayfish. And then, so these are together, right? And these are together. And then these two are together. And these are starfish, right? And us, chordates. So sponges are the most primitive animals. Most animals have bilateral symmetry, which is right here. Bilateral symmetry is like a head and tail end. Most animals share a skeleton of some kind. So most animals are arthropods. They have an exoskeleton, an outside skeleton. And then chordates have an internal skeleton or an endoskeleton. Arthropods, I'm good. This is like one lecture, right? So I'm going to really fly by a lot of these groups. Arthropods all share an exoskeleton and jointed legs. And there are 3 groups I want you to remember that are arthropods. There are insects. Where's an insect here? There are no insects in this one. Here's an insect. Then there are spiders, right? 6 legs, 3 body parts, head, thorax, abdomen. And spiders, they have 8 legs and 2 body parts. This is called the cephalothorax, and this is called the abdomen. And then there are things like crayfish, right? So shrimp, crab, lobster, um, yeah, those are the, those are the ones you know pretty well, I'm sure. So 3 groups, right? Spiders, which include ticks, by the way, and insects, and then crustaceans. And then there are vertebrates. So we're going to talk, the rest of this lecture is about vertebrates. Now, vertebrates are in the phylum Chordata. You need to know this tree right here, and you need to know, oops, this is all on the handout, by the way. You need to know that tree. Oh, by the way, this is an open book test, right? I told a few of you that the other day. So these vertebrates are part of the phylum Chordata. And so there is the chordata, which you go, wait a minute, I think chordata, wasn't that over here earlier? Yeah, don't worry about this one. There are 5 major groups. They're called fishes, some of them, amphibians right here, reptiles, birds, and mammals. I like this tree. You should know this tree. Be able to interpret this tree. You are not asked to be memorizing this tree. Fishes. So, three major lines. They're jawless fish like lamprey and things called hagfish. Then there are the bony fishes like bluegill and pumpkin seed and bass. And then there are the sharks or the cartilaginous fishes. Most of them possess these traits. You should know those. I will say this, there is nothing about fish that makes them unique. And that's a good test question. Believe me, this is a good test question. Fish here, fish here, fish here. Like, there's nothing unique about fish. Like vertebrae. Well, you have vertebrae. I have vertebrae. Jaws. Most fish have jaws, but so do frogs and reptiles. Most fish have a bony skeleton or air bladder. Well, so do everything else. So there isn't really anything unique about fish. Salamanders, frogs. Here's a good question. What distinguishes a salamander from a lizard? Well, here's some things. Slimy skin, right? Lizards don't have slimy skin. Lizards don't have aquatic eggs. Lizards have eggs, believe it or not, like chickens. Amphibians have aquatic and live in aquatic and moist environments. They cannot survive in desert climates, or at least generally. There are a few exceptions. Reptiles and amphibians are both cold-blooded. What does that mean? It means that they get their heat from the outside, whereas birds and mammals get their heat from the inside. They have scaly skin. Oh, good question. So scaly skin, we all know about scales on reptiles, right? We also know about scales in fish. But here's a good one. Don't make a mistake. Pay attention. Fish scales are not homologous with reptile scales. Fish scales are covered by slimy skin, whereas reptile scales are on the outside. And that's one of the reasons why reptiles have to shed their skin and fish do not. Fish scales are actually living, bony tissue, and reptile scales are dead. So remember that. Through three major living groups, lizards and snakes are together, crocodiles are separate, and so too are the turtles. And here's an example of like salamanders on the one hand and lizards on the other hand. Lizards have scaly skin. Salamanders have slimy skin. Salamanders make eggs in the water that are jelly-like, and lizards make eggs that are like this. And lizards are a part of a group called amniotes. Amniotes are animals that make chicken eggs, essentially. And that chicken egg is going to have a shell, and it's also going to have a yolk, right? It's going to have a little embryo, depending on where it is in the developmental stage. And it's going to have other things that I'm not making you responsible for, but this is a very big developmental change in the evolution of vertebrates. All these things here are called amniotes. Good thing to remember, amniotes, right? That includes turtles, crocodiles, dinosaurs, birds, squamates, and squamates are lizards and snakes, and mammals. Amphibians are not amniotes. Now the last two slides. One is on birds. Birds are warm-blooded, and few things I want you to remember about birds is that they're defined very simply by this: feathers and wings. They make eggs like chicken eggs that are similar to lizard eggs, and they have scales. You might know if you have ever owned a chicken that they have scales on their legs. Those scales are like the lizard scales. And they have all sorts of crazy adaptations for flight, which includes this keeled sternum and this thing in red, which is called the wishbone, but is also known scientifically as the furcula. And then they have this the digestive system that is well adapted for efficient conversion of food to help them achieve maximal energy efficiency for flight. And then they have strutted bones, hollow strutted bones that are light and um, strong. And just as an illustration, actually, I said 2 slides, I have 3. Um, so if you have a 4-foot tall pelican and a 4-foot tall human, the pelican is only about 21 pounds, and a human is going to be more than double the weight. This is largely because of the density of the bones. All right, finishing off. Actually, I have one more slide. Sorry. Mammals. We're going to talk about mammals. We have 3 major lines of mammals. These are extinct. Monotremes, which include platypus and something called the echidna. You probably have heard of a platypus before. These are egg-laying mammals. They're very primitive, and they are evidence of a relationship to reptiles because they lay eggs still. And then there are marsupials, which are kind of transitioning to this other group from the monotremes. They don't have eggs, but they don't have a placenta. They have a pouch, right? So we have monotremes, marsupials, and placental mammals. And there are many traits that unite all mammals, and these are them. And I want you to know these. But again, this is not a test to memorize. This is a test that you can consult notes with, but you should be able to know where to find them. These are things that mammals have. Mammals have 3 middle ear bones, right? You probably know this. We call them commonly the anvil, the hammer, and the stirrup, although scientists would call them stapes and the incus and the malleus, and they are part of the inner ear. And no other animal has that. Reptiles don't. Reptiles just have a stapes. Fish only have a stapes. Amphibians only have a stapes. Birds only have stapes. Crocodile, stapes. But mammals have 3. And mammals also have just 1 lower jawbone, whereas reptiles and fish and everything else has 3. We have a 4-chambered heart, but so too do birds. But that's not because the 4-chambered heart is homologous in birds and mammals. And we have a diaphragm, which is unique to us. And we have some unique jaw muscles, which are help us do something that no other animal can do, and that is chew food. And then we have the things we know, hair and mammary glands. And that's it. That's my last slide. Thanks so much.